Let me read to you from John chapter 19, verses 25. Meanwhile, standing near the cross of Jesus were his mother and his mother's sister, Mary the wife of Clopas and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing beside her, he said to his mother, "Woman, here is your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Here is your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her into his own home. That is the reading for Mothering Sunday. They say that you can be so heavenly minded that you are no earthly good. But should we put all our effort into the physical world around us so that there is nothing left to hope for in eternity? When we think about how to respond to the suffering, the anxiety, the destitution, and the fear of illness we are experiencing around us, we might well be asking the question, is it pie in the sky when we die, or steak on a plate while we wait? I have to say there has been far too much steak on the plate while you wait in the last few weeks, as we witness people stashing food to the extent that supermarket shelves are empty. Those needing the Rainbow Centre Food Bank or our nurses on long shifts are going without. That, of course, is reprehensible. But the reading from the Gospel describes this awkward dilemma between earthly concerns and a heavenly hope. Perhaps we've heard the story of the crucifixion so often that we've become sanitized to its real effect. It almost takes on a romantic feel as Jesus, the hero of the drama, strains down to speak to his mother from the cross. "Woman, here is your son." And to the disciple whom we identified as John the Beloved, "Here is your mother." But let's step back slightly and ask ourselves some important questions. Why were the only people around the cross Jesus' mother Mary, his mother's sister, Mary the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene? They were all women with the exception of John. Atop this horrible hill of execution, there is this little group of women gathered round a man who has been executed by the Romans. He is dying in possibly the most barbaric way. This was no romantic vision at all as your family and friends watched on. Jesus has only two of his family present, his mother and his aunt. His brothers had fled, his friends were gone, and his disciples were in hiding. But why? Jesus was accused of forming a rebellion. Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews, was the ironic accusation nailed above his cross. Why were the men absent? Men of a certain age found at a crucifixion would almost certainly have been arrested to share the same punishment. We know this because in the very next chapter the disciples are hidden in the upper room for fear, we are told. Even now, when there are troubled times, so often the women are trusted and move around more freely. If you're a man, you stay indoors. It was only the women of Jesus' day that could safely gather round the cross of an insurrectionist. But what of John? Well, he was probably too young to be of concern, not even capable of growing a beard, which was a sure sign of age. It feels like there is little comfort for us on Mothering Sunday this year. Given all that is happening around us, how might this reading help? Jesus cares so much for his mother that even in his agony he reaches out to secure her well-being. It shows that God cares for each and every one of us, not just in the heavenly beyond, but right here, right now. God's care isn't just pie in the sky when you die. That, of course, doesn't just stop with Mary, Jesus' mother. It extends to John the Beloved disciple. We learn elsewhere that Jesus and John are really close friends. There is a deep emotional bond between the Son of God and this young lad. This bond is about to be broken through death. What a devastating blow for this young man. For Jesus to give Mary to John as his mother shows how he cares for John's vulnerability. Mary represents Jesus in a very special way. In the Greek churches, she is known as Theotokos, the God-bearer. There is a sense in which this is true. She gave birth to the Lord Jesus Christ, who never stopped being both God and man. Jesus gave John the comfort of having Mary, who was very close to Jesus, to stand with him at this difficult time and of course beyond. That goes for us too. He meets the point of our need and reaches us in our difficulties. I wonder what your experience of Christian care has been over the last few weeks. This stems from that deep sense of that is found on the cross with Jesus himself. There is a third character in the drama, and that is Jesus himself. While Jesus was caring for his family and friend in his final moments, he was also doing something far more reaching. Romans 5 and verse 8 tells us, "But God demonstrates his love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us." So to leave this story as one of earthly compassion falls short of its meaning. In other words, Jesus was completing something eternal, not just earthly, in his death on the cross. Christianity is both pie in the sky when you die and steak on a plate as you wait. God cares for us in our sufferings right here and now, but not at the expense of our eternal destination. We should be deeply uneasy if our Christian life does not keep a proper tension between earth and heaven. Christianity is not just a soup kitchen. It is introducing people to the hope of the gospel. Nor is it witnessing to our faith without showing our neighbour the true love of God by shopping for them when they are self-isolating. Jesus says, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor." I suspect that proclaiming the good news requires us to be the good news itself. Otherwise, what we share has no integrity. But being good news without allowing people to hear what that means falls short of the message. Why did Jesus really hang there on the cross? John's Gospel makes it clear from the start. No one has ever seen God, but the one and only Son, who is himself God and is in the closest relationship with the Father, has made him known. Our mission then is not to be good. That quality belongs only to God. Our mission is to make Jesus known to everyone around us that he is the Son of God, come from the Father. Making Jesus known is absolutely about relieving the poverty we witness. We experience the love of God in our hearts to transform us, and that shows itself in our actions, just like Jesus. That, however, is just an outcome. It is not the reason for making Jesus known. That reason is not earthbound. It is eternal. It is a message that anyone can be reconciled with God of eternity through the death and resurrection of his Son, Jesus Christ, on that cross 2,000 years ago. Steak on the plate while you wait is essential to the church. However, meeting earthly needs like for John and Mary at the foot of the cross only goes so far to alleviate the hardships of life. The needs of life are in essence eternal, and only the cross and resurrection solve these sufferings. As we light our candles tonight at 7 p.m. in solidarity with the Christ light, that the Christ light is never extinguished, let me leave you with some questions. Where might you need to receive the care that Jesus offers from the cross? Why not ask him today to fulfill that need? What do you really believe about this message of reconciliation, and do you need to change your mind about it? Who out there today on Mothering Sunday needs to see Jesus in you, in the goodness that you offer, and perhaps glimpse Jesus Christ in you, the hope of glory? Amen.